Hey everybody, and welcome to my personal review of my Warcraft 3 The Frozen Throne speedrun. I wanted to do this to illustrate what are the weak points of the run and to give you guys an idea about how much I think it could be improved. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through each level and explain what I see as potential time savers in each of them, and then explain how well I think they're executed at the moment. I think you could say that a speedrun of a level, it really boils down to two things. It's the strategy and the execution. And where the real time saver is obviously going to be in the strategy, unless the execution is just overall really poor. So let's get started right away with the Night Elf campaign. Overall, I think this campaign was heavily influenced by the fact that other people had previously done some videos about it, and I didn't really bother doing too much of my own investigation to see whether or not these strategies could be improved. And I think, yeah, that's the main weakness of this campaign. I didn't realize up until very recently when I replayed this level that the Warden gets her mana fully replenished when you break down the final door. I could have used this knowledge to kill the satyrs faster with one extra fan of knives, and possibly even blink to the gate to save more time. I also think I didn't probably investigate if it would be worth it to free some of those troops that the satyrs have captured. I don't really I don't really like this chapter. My main problem is that I didn't do enough investigation on this level when it comes down to the strategy. I never tested out if it could have been avoided picking up this extra gold, and if you really need that many units when you attack the base. I think it's one of those chapters where I just blindly followed the strategy of a guy who previously ran the level. Even though I pretty much copied his strategy, I still improved it by almost 30 seconds, I think it was. But nevertheless, I still think the level is very poorly executed overall. I forgot to use my clarity potion, which I meant to use before I entered the boats, and it really looks clumsy when I use it at the end of the fight instead. It's one of those levels where I was just too quick to accept the level as soon as it got a decent time. I also failed to utilize a very cool little trick which I think I need to explain more in detail. It's basically about making the enemy AI stop targeting a specific unit. The way you do that is you take the unit that is being focus fired and you tell it to attack one of your own units. Then the enemy will think that this unit is no longer a threat and immediately start attacking something else. It doesn't always work, it doesn't work on all enemies, and you have to have another unit that's able to tank the damage instead. But I still think it could have saved a lot of time in the fact that I could have saved more units at the end of the level. In order to really get an idea about how powerful this trick is, I advise you to take a look at under chapter 7a. Here I order my ghouls to target the hero I have in front of my army. In this case, the AI would usually have preferred to target my ghouls instead of the weakest units, but now they don't. And it would have been impossible to make the ghouls survive as long as they do without using this trick. Overall, this trick could have potentially have been useful in a lot of chapters, and I don't know why I didn't use it up until later in the run. It's not like I wasn't aware of it when I started the run. I just didn't think of it, I guess. Anyways, on to the next chapters. Both chapter 3 and 4 are optimal when it comes to strategy. At least that's how I feel about it. And I feel like I've tested out pretty much everything. The only way you could improve them is by a little better execution, but then again, it's not much. We're talking a few seconds here. Chapter 5. Where do I begin? This is a chapter I spent the most time on, but I still think it's a chapter that really has a lot of room for improvement. The execution of this chapter is without doubt good, but despite the fact that I tested out so many things, I still feel like I could have tried some more. The problem I have with the level is that the strategy I use, just looks so damn slow. Like, I have to spend so much time killing stuff instead of running past it. And also the fact that I decide to attack the Naga base from the rear entrance instead of the front, and then makes me use some time walking all the way to the back. The reason why I attack it from behind is that the front Naga base is the strongest, and I need the Amulet of Spell Shield in order to cast Starfall long enough for me to actually win the fight. And the reason why I don't run past all the enemies in the beginning is that all of them have some sort of immobilization spell, so I will lose units if I try to generous run past them. But without going into too much details about what ideas I have, it's just basically there's gotta be some ways to overcome these problems. That's what I'm thinking. This one is actually not as easy as it looks, and it's actually pretty good already. At least that's my impression. But there's one thing I failed to test out on this one, and that's just whether or not it would speed up the caravan if I destroyed parts of it on my own. It's not gonna be easy finding time to do it, but the fact that I didn't test it out bothers me. Another level where the strategy is optimal but the execution could have been better. For example, I panic in the end, and it kinda cost me a second when I have to cast Entangle on the final summoner. Here I also blindly copied another guy's strategy without doing so much testing on my own. I should have tested whether or not you could have made the strategy work with only 4 turtles, and possibly if you could afford building an extra barracks right away and possibly have your turtles ready faster. Now on to the human campaign, which is the weakest in my opinion. The main reason for this is that I didn't know at the time I ran it that Flame Strike instantly breaks down doors, and that could have been really useful, especially chapter 1 and 3. Here I could have run past everything and used the Blood Mage alone to pick up the first supply stash, and then utilize the fact that he gets transported down to the boats regardless of where he is on the map when you trigger the cutscene down there. He even gets transported if he's dead. I mean, he just gets resurrected, so that's pretty neat. Strategy here is optimal, I think, but I didn't spend enough time perfecting the execution of this one. Hands down, this is the worst chapter of the run. Not only do I think this chapter is poorly executed, but I also think there's room for huge improvements considering this Flame Strike on doors trick. This chapter is flat out horrible the way I see it right now. Chapter 4 and 5 are both strategically optimal, I think, and they're pretty well executed. There's not much to say about them. This one is where it actually starts getting really hard. It's difficult to say whether or not the execution is good enough in a chapter like this because you're not in practice able to perfect the execution, at least not to the same level of some of the other chapters. My main problem with the level is, however, that I feel like I waste too much time once I get the final gate open. I should have just experimented a bit with running past the first bunch of enemies and going straight for the pit lord. Now finally to the Undead campaign. I think this is the best out of the 3 campaigns in general. I feel like the strategies are very well tested out and overall it's pretty well executed. Chapter 1. Well, this is the hardest chapter without a doubt in the entire run. My only problem with this chapter is that I accepted my time too early. It's like in these kind of levels you gradually get better as you play them. You just keep getting better and better, and I pretty much know that if I played this for a longer time before I accepted the time, then I would have been able to improve it by at least 15 seconds or something like that. Also the fact that I know from individually running each part of the chapter that the theoretical limit for how fast you can beat it is actually below 4 minutes, just barely below 4 minutes. So yeah, it just makes 5 minutes and 26 seconds seem like a pretty slow time to me. Optimal strategy could have been slightly better executed. I think the strategy is optimal, but I should have tried harder to get this one executed better. Optimal strategy, very well executed, one of the chapters that I'm the most proud of. Possibly I should have experimented with stealing more units with the Banshees. It's hard to tell if it would have improved the time. Other than that, it's pretty good. My only problem with this one is that I feel like I don't use the landmines to their full potential. But it's hard to figure out where else I should have used them. Optimal strategy and very well executed. This chapter is damn well executed, but I really don't like the fact that I have to spend so much time at the end killing those faceless ones. It just, well, I tested out if you see if you can actually run past them, but it didn't work out. I just feel like I should have tried harder, maybe with a different item and like a healing scroll instead of an mana potion in my inventory. Yeah, I know the floor moving pattern could have been better, but I literally tried this level about 800 times or something like that, and this was the best I could get. Other than that, I guess the level is pretty good, but luck manipulation, that's just not my thing. And then the final chapter, I think this is optimal strategy. I don't see how you can improve it, but once again, this is one of those levels where I was quick to accept once I got a decent time. I think there's room for improvement if you give it a little better execution. So this was my personal review of the run. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you haven't seen the run yet, I suggest you check it out here on YouTube or wait till it gets up on speeddemosarchive.com. Thank you.